I'd like to get ready. Quickly sign this before it disappears. Very good. So, are you all ready for this evening's questions and answers? Or should we just have questions without answers? Or answers without questions? Ajahn, why do the Chinese Buddhists always chant Namo Amitofu and not Namo Sakyamuni? Namo Sakamomi Tofu. More often they make you or a tofu statue than Buddha. Please elaborate. Thank you. It's not all Chinese Buddhists do Namo Amitofu. We're free to do whatever we want to chant. So you can do the Om Mani Padme Hum. But I must admit, I quite like the Indonesian Namo Buddhaya. It's a very wonderful greeting. You know, meet one another, say Namo Buddhaya, means homage to the Buddha. Amitofu is Amitabha. And interesting, if you don't know, Amitabha is not a Buddha yet, it's supposed to be a Buddha in the future. And you know his, what started off as Amitabha's two chief disciples? Just like, you know, Siddhartha Gautama became Sakyamuni, the sage of the Sakyas. And his two chief disciples were Sariputta and Moggallana, because all Buddhas are supposed to have two chief disciples. So who are going to be the chief disciples of Amitabha? Avalokitesvara and Vayama. Avalokitesvara is now called Kuan Yin. And it's one of the interesting things when Buddhists ask, do Buddhists believe in gender reassignment? And of course we do. We were there far ahead of the game, because if you look at the statues of Avalokitesvara in India, was a male. And as Avalokitesvara was taken over to China, it had gender reassignment. And now Avalokitesvara, Kuan Yin, is a female. So we were there way ahead. But does it really matter if it's a male or a female? And of course not. It is just, we have that image of compassion and kindness. It's amazing, Vayama never actually just hit it off in Chinese culture, because that means struggle, striving, effort. And to the best will in the world, which would you prefer? To worship effort, struggle, striving, or compassion and kindness? So obviously, Avalokitesvara or Kuan Yin was way ahead. So anyway, that was, but then afterwards it became a symbol of something else. We change our symbols from time to time. No wonder you can't tame it. So the whole thing about trying to tame and change, care for your fault-finding mind. If you didn't have a fault-finding mind, then you would not even brush your teeth. Teeth are okay this evening. Yeah, one's falling out, but it's only one. There's plenty others in the in my jaw. I've got a headache, but there's only a tiny bit. I haven't got a headache, by the way. When I say this, it's only metaphors, similes. Don't think, Ajahn Brahm's got a headache. We'd have to go and get him some aspirin or Panadol or morphine, or put him to sleep, put him out of our misery. Somebody laughed there. Amazing. But, so anyway, there's a time for the fault-finding mind. When you're just cleaning out, you're washing. There's also a time when you suspend the fault-finding mind and you're calm and peaceful and happy. So this is where the reason why we focus much on the fault-finding mind is that because some people are just constantly fault-finding. And they're always just trying to sort of criticize this and find fault with that. And of course there's a time for that. But if somebody's being corrupt, you find fault. And so they're doing things wrong over there. Or if somebody is got their mobile phones on when I'm giving a talk, to let go. And when we learn how to let go and appreciate things, it's the opposite of the fault-finding mind. If you're a doctor trying to keep people alive, you find out, where's the problem? If the aircraft which I go on, you go on, if there's a beep, 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 beep in the cabin, and all the oxygen masks are coming down, and the cabin is going backwards and forwards, and if I say, oh, don't worry about no fault finding. That's always why I never like flying Qantas. Every time you go Qantas Airlines, it's always bumpy. There's always turbulence, until I figured out why. Because it's the flying kangaroo. It goes bump, 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 bump. Okay, now. And I've got too many of them. I can't avoid it. The coffin joke? You're groaning. Okay, no, I won't tell it then. Really? Okay, I was going to anyway. So, there was... Should we turn the lights off? No, that's okay. So, there was a gentleman, I think was it Sydney or somewhere anyway. He could have been in England. But anyway, he listened to a talk one evening at the temple. And after the talk was over, maybe 9 o'clock, 2 ways to go home. Otherwise, a long way round, or the shortcut. Are you turning the lights off? No, I'll get in big trouble. So, he decided to either go the long way round or the shortcut. The shortcut was fine, but it went right through the cemetery. Ooh, indeed. And in the cemetery, I don't know why, but there's not as many street lights in the cemetery as are on the outside. So as soon as you walk through the gates of the cemetery, it was a bit dark and gloomy. He never believed in ghosts, so didn't really mind. But he always was felt, even though you don't believe in ghosts, you always feel a little bit sort of tense inside the cemetery. So he got halfway, nothing happened. Nice, peaceful, quiet, no problem at all. Just over halfway, still nothing happening. Only a little bit longer, and you come to the gates and out into the well-lit road. And as he came a little bit longer, he started imagining something was following him. Have you ever had that experience? You think that somebody's following you, and you thought, it's just my mind playing tricks on me. It's just because there's a cemetery, I just got myself all worked up. So it's nothing. But nevertheless, he started walking a little bit faster, just in case. And he also paid much more attention. Because when you're a little bit scared, your mindfulness actually increases. And he thought he could hear something following him. Bump. Bump. He said, no, it could be a little dog or a cat in the cemetery, could be an animal, I don't know what. But he also walked a little bit faster. And it was weird. Whatever it was following him was also increasing its speed. Bump, bump, bump. So he actually started running. And whatever was behind him was getting louder as it got closer. Bump, bump, bump. And he hadn't got to the gate, almost to the gate, and he made a big mistake. He looked around to see if there was anything. And when he looked around, his heart almost stopped. All the colour from his face sort of drained out. And he was just so, all his hair stood up. And he was so afraid. It couldn't have been a monk because we don't have hair. And what he saw was unbelievable. But really could see it. Not far behind him was a coffin. A vertical coffin. So now at the bottom, and it widened, and then it came in at the top, and then the top of it. A closed coffin, still with dirt and soil on it, and cobwebs. Bump, 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 coming after him. He'd never seen anything like that in his life. So he ran as fast as he could. And the coffin also picked up speed. Bump, 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 bump. And he was sweating and panting. The coffin wasn't sweating and panting. Bump, bump, bump. It was catching up on him. He was lucky that his house was really close by. He had a garden gate. But did he open the garden gate? No, he jumped right over it. And he ran down the path. Bump, bump, bump. And the coffin had to stop by the garden gate because the coffin couldn't jump that high. And he thought he was okay. Bump! Bump! As the coffin started to hit the garden gate. And it was a very strong coffin. So he got to the door and he picked up his keys. Just as bump! And the gate gave way and fell on the ground. And the coffin saw him. He got out his keys and he dropped them. Bump, bump, bump. The coffin was coming after him. Yeah, he didn't laugh. And he picked up any old key. He didn't have time to choose. But the coffin was really close. He put any old key in the door. Is the right one. He turned the lock, opened the door, slammed the door shut behind him. Once he jumped inside, bump! Just you could see through the glass of the entry door, the coffin on the other side. He made it. He was safe inside his house. He was panting, he was sweating, he was wiping. The scariest thing he'd ever... Bump! As the coffin started to hit the entrance door. Now, entrance doors are usually very strong. Bump! But even that started to splinter. Bump! That coffin was giving everything it had to try and break into his house. Oh, that was a supernaturally strong coffin. Or whatever was inside it. And so, he looked around, he ran up the stairs. To the top of the stairs, hoping the coffin wouldn't find him. The coffin, bang! And the door gave way. The coffin had broken into the house. And the coffin looked left, looked right. Couldn't find him. Looked up. Bump, 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 bump. So the coffin started to climb the stairs. This was ridiculous. It was scary. Where could he go next? There's only one room which had a lock on it. The toilet, the bathroom. So he jumped in the toilet, closed the door, and locked the door. Bump! As the coffin started to hit the bathroom door. And he knew he was done for. If that coffin could break down a garden gate made of metal, could break down the front entrance door, the little bathroom door would soon give way. Bump! The hinges started to come loose. One more bump! And the coffin broke through. There was no other place to run. There the coffin was looking at him, and he was looking at the coffin. He only did this sometimes when it's really dangerous life and death situations. He did the only thing he thought he could do to defend himself. He grabbed something on the bathroom shelf and threw it at the coffin. It happened to be a bottle of medicine. And the bottle broke, and the medicine just ran all over the coffin's exterior. And at that, the coffin stopped and never moved again. Just as the pharmacist who sold him the medicine, cough medicine, stops the coffin. Oh, that's one of the worst jokes. Cough medicine always stops the coughing. So if you go to a cemetery, take some cough medicine to stop the coughing. Now you can't translate in Bahasa, Tasman, wherever you are, or into Chinese. But I think everyone gets the message. So how do you tame the fault-finding mind? With kindness. So you don't tame it, you love it to bits. And then you don't find fault anymore. And with wisdom as well. I heard that if you donate $1, you get $1 worth of good karma. That's not a good deal, is it? We can do better than that. Then I heard someone said it's not about the absolute sum, but based on the percentages of one's wealth. That doesn't help either. Like tax, isn't it? It sounds depressing when heard these statements. Does it mean we can't catch up on our good karma bank ever if we know it is important now? Okay, look. It doesn't matter how much it is. It's actually what comes from the heart. If you really get inspired. Like, when I was a layman, I used to go to these really boring talks. When I was a Buddhist, I had to go. You know, these really famous monks and people like Christmas Humphreys and all these other people. I'd fall asleep. Even I told that story to my friend, Professor Bernard Carr, because he used to go as well. He said, for me, he said, professor of theoretical physics, one of Stephen Hawking's best friends, and he said that sometimes he had to introduce the speaker, and as the MC he fell asleep many times. And that was really embarrassing. If you're in the back it doesn't matter, but if you're the MC. But because of that I decided I would always, really put some effort and some energy, some oomph when I give talks, a few little jokes and stuff. But when it comes to one of the best talks I remember, there was a Tibetan nun who was just running an orphanage in Sikkim, in Gangtok. And I was so inspired by her just kindness. Not only did I stay awake for the whole talk, but the next morning I went to my bank and got £20 out. And I think I actually, I don't know what I put it in, but I donated it to her. She was still in town, for her orphanage. And that hurt. I was a very poor student. It was about 2 weeks' food money. Actually more than that. And I never starved, but I had to do without. I made up for it now. See, this is one reason I get so much food, because I was so generous when I was young. And so I always remember that to this day. Going without, it hurt. I get so much joy out of that, so much happiness out of that. Because I felt it's a wonderful thing to do. Really wonderful thing to do. But if you've done good karma, it doesn't have to be donations. It could be offering food. It could be sort of helping somebody up the stairs. It can be all sorts of things. Just being kind and caring. Just, even though it takes your time, and you're very busy, and it may be sort of, you should be meditating or should be at work. No, you stop and help someone. And if you do things like that, it's amazing the karmic result you get. There was, when I was in San Francisco last time, 2 or 3 years ago, might be more than that, someone told me a story of in northern California, a farmer was going about his business and he saw a gentleman, his car had broken down by the side of the road. And the gentleman so didn't know how to fix his car. It was out of the range of any mobile or satellite signal, so he was just stuck there. Couldn't call anyone to help. He was just by himself in his car. And so the farmers will always stop for you. Same as Australia, especially now outside of the cities. Anyone who's broken down, you'll always have to stop because there's no place to go, there's no place to call. You could be stuck there for days. So anyway, the farmer stopped. And farmers, they always know a little bit about mechanics. They have to. So it was a simple problem. The farmer fixed it up. The gentleman said, "Thank you very much," and off he went, just with a thank you and a shaking of hands. So the farmer thought. Because about 2 or 3 weeks later, the farmer got a letter from his bank advising him that his debts, farm debts, mortgage debts, had all been paid off, and that a substantial amount had been banked in his credit account. And the donor was Mr. Bill Gates. I can't confirm that story, but that's exactly how I heard it. Bill Gates, like many celebrities, if they're walking or if they're public transport, people recognize them. So many of those celebrities like to get in a car, with darkened windows and just be free like everybody else. No chauffeur, nobody telling him what to do, no bodyguards. And that's what he was doing, going out for a drive just to be by himself and not be a celebrity. And he knew how to fix up computers, I expect, but not cars. So he was stuck there, and being a smart fellow, he said thank you very much. He didn't have any cash on him, but he took down the farmer's number plate. And if you're Bill Gates, you can sort of use some of your contacts, find out who the owner was, find out the fellow was up to his eyeballs in debt, because sometimes farming, you have good seasons and bad seasons, and paid off all his debts, and put some extra in there just for his current account. A simple thing like spending time, helping someone, you're never knowing who it is. So if ever that happens over here, you see somebody stuck on the side of the road, please stop and help them. It could be J-Lo. No, I shouldn't say things like that. Anyway, you get the point there. Dear Ajahn, I was having... so it doesn't matter how much... The amount is not the point. It's just where it comes from, the joy and happiness. But if you ever do good things, like you help people, you're kind to them, you give donations, just remember them. Just beautiful things you've done, wonderful things which you've achieved, great stuff. The new BGF Centre. Do you remember that? All the hard work to get it to where it is? So if you want a really blissed out meditation this evening, just have a think of all the hard work and where you've got to. What a wonderful thing that is. Forget about anything else you're doing. What you've achieved so far. Wow. That's really something. And then you really get into it. And then you start crying. People who cry during meditation, get into it. It's wonderful. Or what the heck. Because some people are wondering about crying. And one of the times I really wept my eyes out, our 30th anniversary of the BSWA. I looked at the dates, doesn't look like it can be done, but if anything changes, I'll let you know straight away. Your top priority, the BGF, any of those days you suggested, for your 30th anniversary. But the 30th anniversary of the BSWA decided to really go for broke. Didn't matter how much we were going to spend, because everything was coming together. It was on Wesak. I forget what the year was now, but it was on a Sunday. The actual full moon day was on a Sunday when everybody had the day off. It was a full moon day, a Sunday, and then I suggested, why don't we get the best venue in the whole of Perth, which was then called the Supreme Court Gardens. And so we rang up the Perth Council, and there being a cancellation, it was actually free on that day. We could actually use it. So everything was coming together. We were getting a really beautiful gold-plated Buddha statue from Thailand, arriving just in time. We got the tents, we got everything was organised, and even the Premier of Western Australia, a fellow called Dr. Jeff Gallup, who was the best man of Tony Blair and his wife Sherry Blair. He was a Rhodes Scholar who went to Oxford, but I didn't hold that against him because I went to Cambridge. But I became a really good friend later on, so we invited him. He said, "Yeah, we'll go." So, and ambassadors who spent a lot of money arranging everything, getting the marquees, the chairs, everything arranged, and the morning of the event, it started to rain. And we looked at the weather forecast, and this was just the start. It was going to get worse and worse and worse. A big major storm, what they call these days a weather event, was coming directly to Perth City, where we were going to hold that event, precisely at 7:00 p.m. when the Premier and other VIPs were going to arrive. And so I remember just going from monastery into town. It was pouring with rain, and it never stopped. Worse and worse and worse. But it's amazing with good leadership, people always have faith. And so everybody was working, setting up everything, everyone getting soaked, and 3 times the Premier's office, his secretary, PA, called one of the organisers, and I took the phone call, and he said, "Are you cancelling?" 3 times I said no. So they rang again, "Are you cancelling?" No. Later on, "Are you cancelling?" No. And one of my disciples, he had spent his life as a merchant seaman, sailing. And he took me aside privately, and he said, "Ajahn Brahm, really respect you, but you're embarrassing us. The barometer, I've followed the readings, I know these things, I've been there. A storm is coming, and it's going to hit at 7 p.m. And you can't avoid this. Admire your faith, but you've got to be scientific and rational. We've got to cancel." No. And then one of the monks even took me aside. And he said, "Ajahn Brahm, please, you're my preceptor, but you're really making fools of us all. Please stop." No. So we went ahead. And about a quarter of an hour, maybe 10 minutes before the VIPs were going to come, I was in the VIP tent, making sure everything was in place. Putting my umbrella down by the side because it was still raining. When one of our senior disciples, a Burmese lady, came running into the tent, Ajahn Brahm, please, you've got to come now." And she was crying. And I thought, what else could go wrong? Has someone been electrocuted or... And so I went outside, and tears were streaming down her face. She pointed up. The clouds had parted, and you had the Wesak full moon clear in the sky. Wow! 5 minutes later, the Premier arrived with a Thai ambassador and many other dignitaries, and a TV crew as well. And the TV crew, were trying to interview me, but they kept on saying, "This is weird. This is weird. This is weird." Not so many people came to the event, I found out later, but enough to fill most of the chairs. The reason was, I only found out the next day, to the east, the west, the north and south of that area, trees were coming down, really strong winds. Many people just could not believe that we held the event in dry weather. And even Ajahn Brahmali, who you know, he's one of the skeptics, and he said, "I have to give it to you, Ajahn Brahm, that was weird." And as soon as we finished the ceremony, it started pouring with rain and never stopped all night. And the field flooded, and even the freeway, if you know Perth, was closed. It was underwater. It was a major flood. But it stopped just for us. When I found out later that the person, the CEO of the company which hired out all the marquees and everything else, the stage electrics, they sent a letter to one of the organisers who passed it on to me. And I remember what the email said. He said, "We don't know who this Ajahn Brahm is, but can you please ask him who's going to win the horse racing today?" And I took that as an acknowledgement that they respected me. But of course, as you know, when you're organising everything, and I don't sort of hold back getting stuck in there with helping with everybody else. We had to take the big heavy Buddha statue back into Nollamara to clear the field, so I didn't get to sleep till maybe 1 o'clock in the morning. And the following morning I had to go to Melbourne for the Waisak there at the BSV. And then for that flight I had to get up early, just and get to the airport, check in. And checked in early enough, had my ticket, and had a chance just to sit down in a corner to rest. But I never rested. I started weeping. Just as you felt what had happened. Something magical. It was the first time that I could actually contemplate, reflect on it. So busy making things happen and getting things all sorted out afterwards. Only afterwards. Not sadness, the piti sukha, the joy, the bliss was just so strong. And I just, in a corner of the airport, so that, people couldn't find me. They'd wonder, what's he doing? Have you lost your girlfriend, Mr. Monk? Never mind, it will pass. Of course, nothing like that. It was just, I was just really blissed out and just, wow, it really came out. But someone did find me. It was a Thai ambassador. She was on the same flight. So she saw me, but she understood what was going on. She was a really sort of good meditating Buddhist. So she invited me, because she was diplomat, she invited me into the lounge. So I could actually, what's it called, rehydrate with a cup of tea. But that was amazing. That was absolutely true, and just amazing when you do something really good and you give everything you've got, put reputation online, everything, and it works. There's a huge bliss comes up. And if you don't cry, you just, whoa, you have a beautiful energy. And jhana is easy from there. You just, too much energy, just go, whoa, and just go into another world. So if you do make good karma, please use it. Again and again and again and again. Every time you think of it, the wonderful stuff you've done. All the great generosity and kindness, not just the BGF, you help my monasteries and temples, all my projects, which are endless. As soon as I finish one, somebody thinks of another one. But anyway, that you get so much joy out of it. So don't think about all the rotten things which have happened to you in life. The time you got the sack, you got injured, when it didn't work out your way. Think about the brilliant stuff you've done. Wow. You really get into it. So that's one of my sources of energy. Either the stuff which I see you do, and the wonderful stuff which each one of you have achieved. And I really notice how powerful that is. And if you can also just see what you've been up to spiritually, gives you goosebumps. Anyway, I was having sinus and went to meditation. While I was having a peaceful moment of meditation, suddenly someone poked me, signaling that my breath is too loud. As I was enjoying the meditation, they suddenly poked me. The sudden poke really gave me a big impact. I lost all the peacefulness, anger, hatred, and shame started to fill in. How can I overcome this with kindness? I tried to meditate, but all the negative feelings just got so strong. I don't know who poked you, but you know who told them to poke you. Because I don't know if it was you, but they said that somebody, the sinus was really streaming down, and they thought they may be a little bit sick. And it was also time for breakfast. So I'd have compassion. Oh yeah, just to make sure. Never have ill will and anger. Does that really help? Of course not. I don't know if that was you, but then somebody was just really and the saliva was coming out of their mouth as well. So they're going to make a bit of a mess of their clothes. So if it was me who told them to do that. Can you get angry at me? Hee. So that's a skillful way of getting rid of all your anger. So next time, just if you've got sinuses, just blow your nose before you meditate. And if you've got things coming down there, poke something in your nose so that it doesn't dribble. And if it comes out of your mouth, wear a bib. Because people do care about you. They want to make sure you're okay. I could be wrong, but I think that's what happened. My fiance's mother thinks that me being a vegetarian and a staunch Buddhist will divide the family, as they are not vegetarians. I feel hurt and disrespect and have developed dislike towards her. How should I deal with people who do not understand my practice? When I was a vegetarian with my mother, you know what I would do? Every time she fried something with even a tiny bit of meat in it, I would scrub the frying pan about 3 or 4 times to disinfect it. I was just so extreme. And what really I remember was that when I was a vegetarian, my girlfriend invited me out for dinner, and she was cooking. She was a good cook, but I don't know why, but she forgot that I was a vegetarian, so she made me a very delicious looking curry with meat, and I refused to eat it. And that was the end of that relationship. I felt really sort of bad about that afterwards, because she put so much care and love and energy into doing that cooking for me, and I just, it's meat. So I realized at that time I cared for animals much more than I cared for people. So I never do things like that. So these days, I'm an omnivore. And there's many types of food people eat. I know this person who's a humanitarian, not a vegetarian. You understand that one. So, me being a vegetarian staunch Buddhist will not divide the family, so you prove her wrong. So, you can have the vegetables when they have the other food, but eat with your family. And don't try and disinfect the plate. I said meat, I have to have my own plate. No, you don't do things like that. And you can go out together these days, I think in restaurants and stuff, you can have a choice. You can have a vegetarian option, or have the meat option, or the vegan option, or the non-gluten-free option, and you have the free-range option. So, I couldn't believe this. I saw when I was in London, in the restaurant, there was free-range sausages. I never heard of free-range sausage before, just like the sausages, they roam the pastures of England. When I actually saw that, free-range sausages. Anyway, I think that must be a mistake somewhere. But anyway, so you prove to them, when I became not just a vegetarian, gave up meat, gave up alcohol, I really was worried about my friends. But afterwards, when we parted our ways after the university finished, I just retorted and said, did you worry about me not taking alcohol or being a vegetarian? They said, no, because you sat with us while we were drinking, you'd have your orange juice or something, while we were having our sort of beef, you were having your, what do they usually give me, like omelette or something? And they said, no, because, you never told us off. You worked with us, and we respected you for that. We know you were a Buddhist, but you never ever tried to convert us. And that gave respect. So with your family, it's their choice what they want to eat and how they want to behave, and your choice. And so when there's that give and take, you can sit next to them, and you can enjoy each other's company. So there's no need to... So prove them wrong. Invite them out for dinner, and you pay for their meat courses, and you order your own vegetarian courses, out of kindness. Oh, you can do this? Yeah, Ajahn Brahm said we can do this. So any bad karma, I take for you. In Samyutta 1.1, the Buddha said that when I pushed forward, I was whirled about. When I stayed in place, I sank. And so I crossed over the flood without pushing forward, without staying in place. Translated by Tanisra, I found the meaning indeed very deep. That's only if you sink, it becomes very deep in the flood. When I pushed forward, I was whirled about. When I stayed in place, I sank. So if it was very deep, that means you really sank. Okay, I'll try my best to be profound. Maybe it's too late at night. What is my explanation of that? It's, I have to really look at the... okay, you can actually maybe... I'm not quite sure if I'm correct. You have to actually look at the sutta itself. But probably it means that when you're pushing forward, you create too much energy, pushing, and you just get agitated, whirled around. But when I stayed in place, and you didn't think that you were doing anything, you just, you sank. You never made any progress at all. But when you are staying still with kindness, you stayed in place, but with this beautiful kindness and contentment, with a good attitude, then you don't sink. You actually start flying. Your mind gets very high and peaceful. It gets energized. So that might be my explanation. But you have to look at the Pali. But people always like the ambiguous stuff. The stuff which is just really hard to explain. Sounds very, very deep. Because sometimes when I went to these talks by monks and nuns and other people when I was young, after the talk, we'd all come out afterwards. Wow, that was one of the deepest talks which we've heard. That was really profound. Did you understand it? No, that's why it was deep. So anything which is hard to understand, we assume is very deep and profound. So the Eightfold Path, the Four Noble Truths, is that deep? I understand that. Therefore it can't be deep. So we look for the deep stuff. In other words, the stuff we can't understand. Where the ordinary stuff, that's where you get enlightened. I agree with you. Dear Ajahn, is that come to a point where we cannot know whether it's an in-breath or out? Should we leave it here? Or thank you. Excellent, yeah. Because what actually happens, this is a simile from the Visuddhimagga, like a person cutting a piece of wood with a saw. And as you cut the piece of wood with a saw, when you first are cutting that piece of wood, you can see just the beginning of the saw, the end of the saw, the middle of the saw, the handle, and also the most important part, just the point where the saw tooth meets the wood. But as you actually zoom in, that's what focusing does. All you see is just one tooth and a tiny bit of wood, just where the two are in contact with one another. And there's no way of knowing whether that saw tooth is at the end of the saw, or the beginning of the saw, or the middle. You focus in so much, it just becomes breath. And without any reference points, by seeing the beginning or the end of the breath, there's no way of knowing whether it's 2/3 along or 10% along. And that's what happens. You're seeing the breath, and you don't know if it's the beginning or the end, but it's there, you're aware, and also the breath, because it becomes smooth and even, you don't even know whether it's an in-breath or an out-breath. It's just breath, refined just in this moment. And that's actually, it happens, just leave it. That's really powerful. The breath is soon going to disappear. Incredible, beautiful lights are going to come up with lots of joy. You really are focused and very still to be able to do that. You're really just in the moment, very much in the moment, just with a tiny bit of reality. This present moment just is part of the breath happening right now, giving all the energy, really focuses. Just like when you have a magnifying glass, put it under the sun's rays, where it falls on the ground, it gets very hot, even starts a fire. That's how powerful the focus is. So it happens, and wonderful. Don't do anything. Just see this evolve. Be still And it doesn't stay stagnant, it just gets even more powerful. So it's good stuff. Dear Ajahn, so don't think, oh, I've lost the breath. You're aware what's right in front of you right now, most important. Care for it, leave it alone, and just present moment. Emperor's 3 questions. Is it stated, dear Ajahn, is it stated in any sutta that it is meritorious to practice 8 precepts on a periodical basis? Of course it's meritorious, because it's more letting go renunciation. Of course it's meritorious. But if you just practice it just to show off, like Datuk Victor was reminding me, in one tradition, 5 precepts, 8 precepts, why not go further, the 13 precepts, which I heard people were taking, previous me was in Sri Lankan temples, on the big occasions like Wesak. And I couldn't understand, what on earth is 13 precepts? I've never read that in any book. And they said, well, what we do, we keep the 8 precepts in the morning, and afternoon we keep 5 precepts. Together that makes 13. Which is much more meritorious than just 8. 13 is a bigger number. That's really, it's not what was meant. So if you're doing it for really good purpose, you really understand it, you don't even need to formally take them, just keeping them is the most important. Because I don't know how many times I've witnessed people, 5 precepts, Parnati, Pata Veramani and Kapad. In other words, it's just doing it for show, it's just a ritual and has no real meaning. And other people, they don't even do the chanting, but they keep those precepts so well. Not every time they go and see a monk they need to do the chanting. They just, it's their life. They just keep precepts. Because it's so obvious a good thing to do. Dear Ajahn, Ajahn Brahm, when I get this open, can I share something on how to prevent nightmares? No. Well, you gave me a choice. You say, can I? Don't I have... Okay. I have read a book called A Theravada Monk in L.A. The author, who is a monk, advised people who often have nightmares to chant these 4 verses before they go to bed. Avoid evil, do good, purify the mind. This is the teaching of all Buddhists. There was a Buddhist guy who was chased by ghosts in his nightmares every night. Cough mixture. That's my solution. Chased by ghosts in his nightmares every night. And every time he screamed. If I didn't remember wrongly, he woke other people up. I advised him to chant these 4 verses 7 times before going to bed. And it worked for him. And he was very grateful to me. PTO. But then the ghosts were very upset at me because they had no one to chase. So they came and bothered me. No, I made that up. It worked. Well done. I have also tried this on a new acquaintance who was my roommate on our pilgrimage in Lumbini. She was screaming in the middle of the night because she was having a nightmare. A black cat had landed on her chest. Oh, cats are lovely animals. They're really cute. Black cat can land on my white cat. Any old cat can land on my chest any old time. I woke up, went over to her bed and woke her up and asked her to chant these 4 verses after me 7 times. And we had a peaceful night after that. Thank you. With metta. Yeah, it's worth a try. So whoever has the nightmares, where's it called? Avoid evil, do good, purify your mind. This is the teachings of all the Buddhas. There's another way of actually avoiding nightmares. Is actually don't go to sleep. Is it stay? Okay, that's a periodic one. I lost my place and I think no, that's all done. I have friends who are very far ahead in their Buddhist knowledge, and they even attend retreats too. How far ahead are they? How do you know? Because there's no far ahead. It's always, where do we get to? Now and here? Nowhere. So, do you want to be perfect? That great T-shirt, I don't know who's got the rights for it, but I'm sure that BGF could print it. 3 lines. Number 1 line. Nobody is perfect. 2nd line. I am a nobody. 3rd line. Therefore I'm perfect. That's logic. Nobody is perfect. I'm a nobody. Therefore I'm perfect. How can you help them to progress to the next level? Oh, I can't. They're far ahead of me. They got to practice more humility. In other words, don't tell people how far ahead you are. A lot of times, how many retreats have you done? Only 3? That's nothing. I've done 5 retreats. 5 retreats. Oh yeah, but those are the soft Ajahn Brahm. I don't be past it. They're really tough. How many meditation hours have you done in your life? Oh, that's all you've done? Oh, that's nothing. I've meditated much more. How many have you got to beautiful breath? Oh, beautiful. I did that the first day I was here. I'm into nimittas. Now, what colour are your nimittas? Oh, mine are a bit dirty, but mine are really gold nimittas. You can't, that's the highest nimitta, the gold nimitta. And what about jhanas? That's why that monk, Venerable Chogyam Trungpa, he did many other silly things, like getting drunk. But that's one very good insight. You don't just put down a person because some things they do. There's always some other really good things they've done. And one of the things which he did was notice spiritual materialism. We have materialism, who's the best, who's the richest, who's the most well connected, who's got the best jewelry, the biggest house. But this was saying that many people, they move off from material possessions to spiritual possessions. How many pilgrimages have you done? How many teachers have you sat with on meditation retreats? Have you actually met the Dalai Lama yet? Have you? And so much of stuff is like just really, I'm better than you stuff. And so please be careful of spiritual materialism. The people who you really respect have got power, the ones you never know about. This afternoon I began the meditation on repeating peace silently, and it seems to me that this was a much deeper meditation than by observing the breath. Can it be that for some the repetition of a mantra can be more effective? Perhaps some people are more visual, others more auditory. Now what happens is you've done the breath many times, and saying peace is new. And whenever anything is new, it's easier to put your attention on it. If you keep doing that for a few more days, you will find that it doesn't work as well anymore. You get sort of used to it. It doesn't have that sort of freshness and easy enough to look at. So that's one of the reasons why it's nice to have a few meditation objects. And when peace is not sort of really biting as much as it did before, then do something else, like the Emperor's 3 questions, or the meditation on the breath, or vipassana, or whatever. Just change it around a bit, and then it gives it a freshness. I have been practicing Buddhism and meditation for about 5 years. Part of my practice is hoping that I can improve my temperament, especially towards my mother. Unfortunately, I find myself getting more impatient and easily agitated by my mother. Through this meditation practice, how can I move forward to improve myself? Thanks very much for your guidance. Oh, your poor mother. Yeah, it's just mothers being mothers. Look, if you have a dog at home and you try and stop the dog barking, it's not going to work. So that's what dogs do. Dogs bark. They go woof woof. Cats go meow meow. Mothers complain. Not all mothers, but sometimes. What about you? Have you got a daughter, a son, and you're their mother? Are you the same? Oh no, not me. I'm always very kind. So anyway, so it's just a mother, because a mother often cares too much about you. They always want the very best for you, and sometimes it just drives you crazy. Now they've got the good intention, the kindness. They want to sort of keep the cultures and traditions. So sometimes that really gets, gets you very upset. And of course your mother knows how to upset you more than anybody else in this world. So they know all your weak points. So you find those weak points before your mother finds them. And you block them off. So every time she says something, you never get upset. Yeah, I knew that one, Mum. Try something else. Oh yeah, Mum, I can understand where you're coming from. But, how are you today? Yeah, but how's things going? When you block off all of your places she can press your buttons, as they say, all your little weak points, cracks, they can't make you angry. So learn how to be more resilient, so your mothers can never control you, because you never get angry, but you're always kind and understanding and forgiving. That way, your mother thinks, waste of time getting angry at my daughter. She just sits there and smiles and is nice to me. Can you try that? Anyway, so a little bit more wisdom and kindness. And don't try and change your mother. There was one of Ajahn Chah's stories, which very rarely do I repeat. It's one of the most simple stories. There was a man who had a chicken and he wanted it to be a duck. That was the end of the story. That's the story of suffering. Now we have a mother and we want it to be like a beautiful nun. We have a father and want it to be like a nice kind Ajahn Brahm. We have a wife, a husband, and we have a husband and we want him to be as rich as Bill Gates. I don't know what. Husbands are husbands. They're not ducks. So if you have a chicken and say quack quack, go quack quack please, you're suffering. So this is when you get married. You get married to a woman. That's a woman you got married to. They're not going to change. Wanting a chicken to be a duck is a lot of suffering. And you can apply that simile to so many different areas. So short. And so, what was the other little story? The shortest fairy tale. You know the shortest fairy tale? Okay. Prince Charming rescued Cinderella from her evil stepmom and asked Cinderella, will you marry me? She said no, and they lived happily ever after. That's a monk's joke. Anyway, dear Ajahn Brahm, I have a pair of poodles that I love a great deal, and I would like to help them to accumulate merits. Oh, poodles, yeah. Can Ajahn give advice on methods to improve animals' rebirth to higher realms? There's one of the doctors over in Melbourne. She got a Labrador dog, and she trained it to visit people in cancer wards for pet therapy. And it only actually died last year but you know, it's a very lovely dog, big Labrador dog. You know what she called it? Chemotherapy. So she named it Chemo. So that was the dog. So chemo, so she took it into the hospital. She was a doctor, into the cancer wards. And so the cancer patients could actually pat the little doggy. And it was so well trained. It's a beautiful dog. Big, heavy Labrador. So called it Chemo. So when she took it to hospital, chemotherapy. So dogs can, and cats can do a lot of really wonderful things, even taking cats to the hospital or the old people's wards. And just let them cuddle them for a while. Some cats can be really sociable. Dogs the same. And even imagine, just every now and again we get a stray cat comes into Bodhinyana Monastery. They're not supposed to be in the forest, but if they stay there more than about 5 or 6 days, so we've got to take it away now, and all the monks protest. No, we want to keep it here. And the leader of the protesters is usually me. Dear Ajahn, any new ghost stories? Commercial break. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. But these ghost stories are always nice ghost stories. So what was the story? There was this old gentleman. Oh no, I'll tell this story. This was about a couple of years ago. This is one of the people who's a Thai boxer, and that was his profession. So he did very well. And he was living in a house. The next door house was an Australian builder. And Australian builder and his wife had a dog, and of course one day the dog got so sick, actually over many weeks, took him to the vet, looked after everything possibly could with the little dog, and eventually the dog passed away. The vet said, look, there's nothing more we can do, it's really suffering, so he died in the builder's arms, in the veterinary surgery. And so the next morning, he woke up, sort of washed, had some breakfast, went to work early, as builders do. And when he opened the door of his house, which is right next door to this Thai boxer's house, when he opened the door of his house, there was a dog waiting outside who looked exactly the same as his dead dog. And he ran right past him into the house. And he was really quite stunned and followed the dog. And the dog sat or lay down, curled up, in each of his favourite corners in the house, just for a minute or two. And then he went outside into the back veranda where there was a leaky tap, and that's where the dog would always have a drink when it was thirsty, from the leaky tap. And then, of course, the builder was just stunned and just watched what this dog was doing. And then the dog ran up the stairs to where his wife was still asleep, or half asleep, because it was a dog's routine to give a kiss to his mistress before he went in the back of the pickup truck to go to work with the builder. And so he ran upstairs and leant up, and the builder's wife was half asleep. So she did what she did every morning, not remembering that the dog was dead. So the dog put its muzzle up, and she kissed it, and the dog went away. And so be careful in the morning who you kiss. Could be a ghost. But it was really nice anyway. So, and then he ran out and outside the door and went to jump in the builder's van, in the back tray, as he would always do every day to go to work. But the builder actually, he photographed it on his iPhone. So the Thai builder actually showed it to me. And they said, no, that's enough. You can't get in the tray. You're dead. And so the dog looked at him, turned around, and ran off down the street, and never was seen again. Except on the video, on the photos which Pon showed to me. It was a dog who passed away, but just wanted one more visit, actually for closure, as they say. Just curled up in each of the little corners, and then just drink from his favourite tap to his mistress, and then disappeared forever. It's really cute. I love stories like that. Not scary at all. But it's one of the things to the dog saying, I'm okay, but just I miss you. and then goes off. Ghost dog. What is equanimity? How to cultivate, how to meditate. How to meditate? I spent the last 7 days these days, and now you ask me? Good job I'm a monk, otherwise I get depressed at this point. No. What is equanimity, Upekkha? It literally means looking on it, being content, not being worried about things. And to really be content, the similar I said of a string. If you're too tense and taut, of course you never got contentment. Bing! Even the slightest thing upsets you. But if you're really relaxed and content, equanimous, then nothing really bothers you. You've seen people like that? Just, there's a fire, yeah, it'll burn, it'll go out by itself. You got sort of, scrub typhus, Brahma Wangso said, Ajahn, you'll either get better or you'll die. No worries, no problem. That's what he told me, and it's true. Yeah, I was, really terribly sick, really with a fever, but he just said, you get better or you'll die. What's the problem? It'll pass. That's equanimity. Wow, I'm actually getting through the questions. I've actually finished them. Looking into the causes of stillness, I saw that the will desperately tried to do something. Oh, this is good stuff. Anything in meditation, and I inquire into the causes behind the will want to do something. There is the view, if I do this or that, then my meditation really goes deep. I tried to change that view, but then that would be doing something. Then I remembered, good enough. That's nice. Just knowing is good enough. Just like Ajahn, you had gotten the insight into how to meditate along your years of practice. Should we to investigate, to internalize his insights for ourselves, the cause and conditions? You're already on the way when you do stuff like that. Realize, instead of trying to stop the this will thing, trying to do something, you inquire the causes behind this will wanting to do something. But underneath that is actually good enough is fine. Underneath that is that you're disappearing. Your sense of self is going. So now, who are you? A lot of times we define ourselves by what we do. I'm a nurse. I'm a teacher. I'm a meditator. I'm a president. I'm a mother. I'm retired. Defining yourself what you don't do anymore. But when we actually stop doing things, it's like us, as we know ourselves, disappears. So we do in order to say we're still here. It gives us an identity. If you don't do anything, you have identity crisis. But when you go through the crisis, peace. So the reason why it's so hard to do something, not to do something, is because you have to vanish. That's one of the reasons why in the jhanas, the great still states, the jhana is, but not a person who enters it, not a doer. The will has to be left outside. Why are you all quiet now? Must be time for a joke or something. Otherwise, if you do too many deep things at the same time, actually people do fall asleep. Is it necessary to follow 16 steps of anapanasati or just 100% focus on breath and let it be? It may be disturbance to think of 16 steps and out of focus. Indeed. So just let it go natural. Letting go, just like opening up the lotus. Sometimes two lotuses open up together. You just get piti, sukha, you get bliss. Which one is piti, which one is sukha? You can't really tell them apart until later on in deep meditation. So don't count the steps. Take the elevator. Dear Ajahn, I have a mean and unkind boss who likes to take all the frontline good exposure to media where people notice her presence. Take all the frontline jobs and leaves the unglamorous tasks for others to do, carry out, and she practices favoritism big time. Apart from sending metta to her, running out of metta already, What else can one still do to turn the situation around? Look, if there is a person like who's mean and unkind, and they like all the exposure to media where people notice her, oh, let her be so stupid. It's really rough, when, I never intended to be the abbot or the teacher. I had another monk who was my senior, and I thought my life was set. I can just be number 2. So he takes all of the media and does all the talks, and I just have a nice time. You know what he did? He fell in love, got married, disrobed. I never saw that coming. So I was left holding it all. So anyway, but that's, you don't choose, whatever happens. But exposure to media where people notice her presence, do you really want people to notice your presence? Let her take that. If she's stupid enough to want that, then let her take it. Because it's nice being a nobody, being incognito, being able to go. That's why there's one of those monks, the same monks, with the bottle of poo simile. Before he was a monk, he was in LA, and he knew people in the hotels. He snuck into one of the hotels when Bob Dylan was there, and could actually just go and have a chat with him. And because the bodyguards, they weren't so strict in those days. And he would ask Bob Dylan, he said, well, it must be great being Bob Dylan. They said, what? It's SHIT being Bob Dylan. I can't go anywhere, can't do anything. People are always taking photographs of me, criticizing me, waiting for me to fall down on my face or whatever. He said, it's hell being famous. And of course you can imagine why that is. So this is why taking the exposure in the media where people notice her presence, oh, if she's doing that for you, let her do it. It's much better. And leaves the unglamorous tasks for others to do, carry on. Wonderful, the glamorous jobs, they can take it, honestly. Because you'll be far more peaceful and happy. If you can imagine just for one day swapping shoes with her, and what it will be like, is that really how you want to live? So being number 2 is tailgating the others. Yeah, you don't get so much recognition, but you get far more peace. So I think carries favoritism big time. Let her. It's karma. So if I was you, I would just count your lucky stars. You must have very good karma. It's one way of looking at it. There's other ways of looking at it, but that's a helpful one. How to go about if a person have sleeping problem, insomnia, especially during the period of menopause symptoms, please advise. That's beyond my experience. But nevertheless, just because I don't know what it's like to have menopause doesn't stop me from giving my opinion. So you got sleeping problem, insomnia. Often, don't try to go to sleep, because people who try to go to sleep, that just makes it more tight and tense, and you just find that makes it worse. You can't go to sleep. One of the great methods is doing a sweeping meditation, with your stuffing your toes up your legs, because as you do that, if you really do it properly, really putting some attention and kindness there, your toes relax and your feet relax. Do it much slower than this, your heels. Usually, before you even get to your thighs, you're fast asleep. Because it's just relaxing your body and being kind. And it's also taking away the attention from the head, where all the thinking goes on. And that sort of really keeps you awake. So starting here and relaxing. And that's a common method of meditation. But then, at one of these conferences for Buddhist psychologists, this lady said that, actually she was just talking to me in private, and she said that's what she teaches online. She started a company quite a few years ago, sleeplikeababy.com. And she said she was making a fortune. He said 100% success, she was saying, because this Buddhist tradition of just mindfulness and kindness as you sweep up your legs, it really works. You're being kind and you're relaxing, really relaxing. Until when you get up to here, they're usually just fast asleep. You're not trying to go to sleep. You're trying to relax. Actually, you're relaxing from trying. Therefore, the tightness and tension goes. So that's a very good way. So I'm undercutting her market. She's got plenty now. The 10 paramis, starting with dana, are they in this particular sequence? Can we jumble them? Of course you can jumble stuff. So the 10 paramis, that wasn't from the time of the Buddha. It was like keeping up with the Joneses. Because the Mahayana, they had 6 paramis as the part of being a bodhisattva. And then the Theravada says, you've got 6, we can do better than that. So we started 10 paramis. And I'm not quite sure if anyone's got up to 12 or 13, just doing one better. But all those parameters, doesn't matter Mahayana, Theravada, they're always good things to do. They're doing dana, sila. But I often noticed that whether it's the 10 paramis of Mahayana or the 6 paramis, they all include sila, samadhi, panya. The 3 practices which expand him in the Eightfold Path. So everyone should be practicing the Eightfold Path, and just a few extras just to assist. So you can start any old way. Thank you for pointing out the monster in my mind. The first few days during practice, 15 minutes feels like an hour, but now an hour feels like 15 minutes. I guess the monster is getting smaller and smaller. Ajahn, you're always smiling. Smiling is kind, it can be mindful. Smiling is kind, it can be mindful too. Is it possible for the next retreat to practice noble silence, meantime to have smiling, mindful zombie too? In other words, yeah, I think I did say that. You may be keeping silence, but you can always smile at people. It makes them feel happy and they're loved and they're recognized. Because imagine you're going through this place. And everybody's so serious and level mouth. So horizontal mouth is bad posture. I haven't mentioned that. The most important part of your posture is not where your legs are, your hands are, or if your back is straight. This. This is bad posture. This is very bad posture. This is almost good posture. This is really good posture. Because that helps the meditation, getting very peaceful. Very good. So smiling is great. So please smile at a person. Because sometimes people go through some hard times in meditation. They have difficult times in their life, and then they come on a retreat, and it's a bit disappointing some days. Other days they're fine, but if you see someone a bit miserable, just smile at them. It makes a lot of difference. Ajahn, I once heard from a venerable that it is not possible to share merit with a living person, nor transfer merit to a departed one unless that person is born into the hell world. Is that true, Ajahn Brahm? Of course it's not. You transfer merits every day, even to people you don't really know. What do you do? How do you mean transferring merits? Without you even wanting to do so. You meet somebody you've never known in the street, or just up in the upstairs, and you smile at them. A real smile, that's the merits, the good karma you've generated by listening to Dhamma, by meditating. And you don't even know them, and they see that and they smile back. You now by transferred good karma. Not because you've made any resolution or you've done any chanting. The fact that you've been a good person, a kind person, a peaceful person, that's transferred to everybody else. Karma which you built goes to others. And just helping someone in a small way. Somebody gave me some eye shades. I remember going through Changi Airport and I didn't need them, but I saw this Western lady. She was trying to get some sleep and she was rolling backwards and forwards on one of the couches. So I said, she was half awake, said, try these are very good. She looked at me with kindness, oh, thank you so much. And so that made her a little bit more comfortable. And she realized that Buddhist monks are not just people who beg for alms, sometimes we give as well, we share. Which is a wonderful way of actually showing that my good karma of actually acquiring those eye shades, I could transfer it to somebody else who probably wasn't even a Buddhist. That's transferring merits. Your good karma to somebody else who's alive. So you only departed one unless that person is born into the hell world. Sometimes the hell world is one of those places where you can't transfer merits because they're just so consumed by their suffering and their pain, they're just not open to anybody else. So it's usually, they say, the realms of deprivation, but it's not even that. It's just animal realms, ghost realms. Really, you help out ghosts all the time. You're just being kind to them. So ghosts, as long as you're quiet in my room, that's fine. Just I need my sleep, so you just be quiet, but you stay here. You can be happy with me. So that's transferring your merits. He once told us that we all have to walk or practice a Noble Eightfold Path to be able to progress in our meditation. I'm trying to incorporate this teaching into my daily life. Would it be possible for a worker or a business owner to work or run their business keeping the precepts and walk the path successfully, or do we only become private Buddhists? Please advise how to. Of course, when you're running your business, I run a business. Buddhist Society of West Australia, helping other businesses throughout the world, Bodhinyana Buddhist Corporation. It's not a corporation, but monasteries. There's many things you have to do, but you keep it ethical. And sometimes people think, oh, that's just, if it's ethical, I'll never succeed. You do succeed. Ethical business practices. It takes a long time to build up your business, but you get a reputation, you're trusted. Because you've got a reputation, you're trusted, people want to do business with you. As Professor Colin Ash used to say, he was one of the trustees of the monasteries in England, and he came to quite a few of these conferences. And at one of those conferences, I think it was the first global conference they did in Singapore in 2000, that he was going to give us some sort of paper, but he changed it overnight and to the economic benefit of Buddhist monks and nuns. Is there any? Because he started his paper off that Buddhist monks and nuns we don't produce. We don't produce kids, obviously, which has an economic benefit. That's why people like migration or keeping the population growing, because the more kids, they need schooling, they need education, they need more clothes and stuff. Has a positive economic benefit, apparently. And we don't start businesses, and so because you don't know whether the people you're dealing with are going to tell the truth, whether they're going to deliver the products on time. They usually say, oh yeah, the truck left the yard, but it hasn't left the yard. It's going to come tomorrow. So you have to factor in that your raw materials might not arrive on time. And number two, they may be defective. You may have to replace a couple of them. And then also that there's so many other transaction costs which come around because people cut corners and you can't trust people. It's business. And he said that is a big drain on any economy. But when there is honesty in transactions, it does mean that you can order something and you know that what they say it can do, it does do. The product actually fits the specifications. And number two, if they say it's going to arrive on time, it does arrive on time. There's an honesty, there's a trust there. And whatever you sell to your clients, you know that it is exactly what you say it can do, and you will deliver on time. With that degree of honesty, you can actually cut so many transaction costs. And it's a big plus for the economy. And I remember that because monks and nuns or anybody who encourages more honesty, more trust, more care, will always have a huge economic benefit. And of course, then we go into meditation, greater productivity, because your greater efficiency, you don't stress yourself out. When the cup gets heavy, you put it down and rest. So when you pick it up again, you can carry out without so much stress. What I've told many people, Harvard Business School calls it an investment of time. Relaxing, meditating, taking a break is not a negative. Yeah, you may just meditate for 45 minutes at work, but those 45 minutes you'll make up with profit in the afternoon. You get 3 hours work done in 2. You made it 15 minutes of high quality work. So that's why I was saying that being a Buddhist, meditating, being ethical, can actually make for great business. You have an edge, to the point that it will happen one day that you will actually get endorsed by the BGF, Honest Buddhist Business Group, and people recognize these are somebody we can trust. You know what it's like doing business, or even for me, people say they're going to, like, the aircraft is going to leave on time, and it doesn't. Or they say that the computer they give you is going to do all these amazing things, and it doesn't. Things keep going wrong. So it's wonderful if there's honesty, and then business goes so much more smoothly. Anyway, Ajahn, our existence is due to the force of karma. Is it possible that a person exists without karma? Are you talking about artificial intelligence? No. Even artificial intelligence has karma. As I mentioned, your iPhone, if that goes off during my meditation and disturbs me, that's really bad karma. And what did I say in the BGF? What happens to a phone if it goes off during a Dhamma talk? It's because it's bad karma. In its next reincarnation, it will be reborn as a parking meter, which is the lowest form of life for technology. But anyway, that's only joking. Anyway, each time I tried to meditate, I dozed off after a few minutes or so. Is it better off for me just to sleep or take a nap? If yes, then I won't be meditating at all. I thought I should continue to meditate to get higher energy level. Take a break. There's no way in the world you're going to take a nap for the rest of the 2 days. You might try. You get so fed up. You can't go to sleep. So it's obviously that, your sleep deficit is overcome. So if you're really tired, take a nap. And after a while, you don't want to take naps anymore. Your sleepiness is over. And just now, you've got good energy. Now, make peace. Be kind, be gentle. And you wake up. When I talk about sleep, I start to yawn. When I talk about food, I start to get hungry. Can you share with us what are the first things that we should come to our minds when we suddenly meet or deal with disaster or challenges in life? Don't call it disaster, call it again a challenge. So many things in life which are so-called disasters, that's where you learn and grow the most. One example of that is the Great Fire of London in 65 or something. Because there's a whole area, which is now central London, was devastated, burned to the ground. It gave the authorities, this huge clearing, an opportunity before people rebuilt to put in a sewage system, which is still there today, the underground sewers. Imagine into KL trying to put sewers through. You have to tunnel, it's very expensive. When you've got clear land there, Now you can dig all your tunnels, really cheap, very easy. No one's living there because it's all burnt. And then after put the sewage in, then you can invite people back. So that's where that came from. Disaster was a wonderful opportunity to rebuild the City of London. So it's not always disaster, it's just a regeneration happens. So always look about, there's always something positive which happens with a disaster. There is such a thing as psychic power, so it's not unusual if I am able to sense a flow of energy from the universe, right? You may be able to sense a flow of energy from the universe, but how are you using it? There is dark energy. If you heard of dark matter and dark energy, is that what you are channeling? Ooh. Now you obviously feel, however you interpret the world, if it's a good energy, make sure you put it to good use. So don't take it for yourself, don't get proud, and don't sort of, it's okay to pay your bills, but don't make a big thing of it. The last question. Maybe. Oh, it's only 9:32. Amazing. From your experience and knowledge, does becoming a vegetarian or a vegan help in becoming more still, deep in meditation? It's not becoming a vegan or a vegetarian or a fruitarian or a meatarian or a humanitarian. It is why and what you make of it. Some people, unfortunately, they just can't survive just on vegan food. Some people can. There's so many people have different pasts, which is one of the reasons that if you can, wonderful, but don't criticize other people if they can't. And does it help you become more still, more deep in meditation? Not really. It's the energy which you have and how you make use of that energy. So, that is the final question for tonight. There's another session tomorrow, isn't there? Okay, very good. 9:33, wow, that's amazing. And I could get in the coffin story as well. That's amazing. Okay, so, sharing of merits. This is a traditional way. Idam yatina hotu sukhita hontu yatayo. Idam yatina hotu sukhita hontu yatayo. Idam yatina hotu sukhita hontu yatayo. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Very good. Okay, have a wonderful night. No need for any insomnia, no need for any nightmares. Just enjoy a nice, peaceful, happy night's rest.